Welcome inside the CitrusTV studios for another edition of Cuse Countdown. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Heather Prusak alongside our analysts Evan Weston and Ron Schiltz. This week we're talking about Syracuse and Pittsburgh. Guys, last year, Parents' Weekend in the Dome, same situation this year, but last year Syracuse blew out West Virginia. Can we expect the same results?
Well, Heather, last year was the middle of the season and they were 4-2. This year they're 1-3, and there's a lot less hope surrounding this team. And honestly, after that deflating loss to Minnesota, not sure they're quite as good as last year. I don't know if the crowd will have that much of an impact on the game, but we'll see.
I don't think the fans have enough confidence in the team, and I don't think the team has enough confidence in themselves to pull off a huge win like this. I mean, I don't know. I just think this is a huge matchup for them. First game in the Big East, and they really, I don't know. I just don't think they're as good a team as they were last year.
You never know. The players seemed pretty excited this week, and we'll hear more from Evan and Ron in a bit. But first, let's start off the show by hearing from the players in the kickoff. So far this season, the Orange has been a little banged up with injuries, but one bright spot for the Cuse is the return of offensive tackle Justin Pugh. He's expected to play on Friday after missing the first 4 games of the season. Pugh spent that time recovering from shoulder surgery done in the offseason. And even though he hasn't played a game yet in 2012, Pugh says the time off will actually help him in the long run.
I'm probably in better shape now than I was. I'm actually stronger now than I was before. They kind of made fun of me because I wasn't very strong the past couple of years, and now I'm already as strong as I was before, so it's definitely a good thing.
With the move to the ACC, Syracuse will keep its rivalry alive with Pitt. But there's still a sense of unfinished business for the Orange. In the 2011 season finale, the Panthers crushed SU's postseason hopes. Remember, the Orange only needed to win that game, that very last game for bowl eligibility. But for quarterback Ryan Nassib, this weekend is much more than just revenge from last season.
Pitt and a few other teams are definitely definitely some of the reasons why I was excited that we didn't go to the ACC for my senior year. So, I've never beat them. I don't think I've ever come close. Oh, kind of last year was close, but barely even come close against these guys. So, we're hungry.
So Ryan Nassib wants to finally notch that win over Pitt. But that's not the only thing on the players' minds. Yes, it's Pittsburgh, and yes, they're rivals, but the sights are set much further than that. A W in the win column would mean Syracuse opens up conference play at 1-0. To wide receiver Alec Lemon, this is much bigger than simply beating a foe.
A win's a win, but I mean, it's the Big East, so, our goal is just to win the Big East, and, you got to start off with Pittsburgh, so that's what we're looking forward to, and, hopefully we'll win the Big East like we set our goals for.
Welcome back, Evan and Ron. Guys, you heard from Alec Lemon right there. It seems like Syracuse kind of has this BCS bowl or bust type of an attitude. Do you think that's true?
Well, if they want to have any type of bowl or bust attitude, they have to win this game. It's a huge matchup. Losing this makes them 1-4. Only 2 more losses they can afford until they're out of bowl eligibility. Let's not talk BCS bowl, guys. Let's talk a Big East win first.
And they have a tough Big East schedule ahead of them, but they also have the game at Missouri, so their non-conference schedule isn't even over yet, and that's a huge Big 12 game coming up. So,
I mean, not only is their Big East schedule tough as it is, but then, like you said, their non-conference schedule is pretty tough. Well, we heard a lot about Syracuse, but now let's go over and meet the Pitt Panthers. It's not too many changes from the 2011 squad. Let's start at the center of the offense with Tino Sunseri.
Well, he is the same quarterback that played the last couple years, but this is a different Tino Sunseri. This guy has completely reformed his game and is now completing more passes and doing it for more yardage. He leads the Big East in passer rating. He leads the Big East in yards per attempt, which is a key statistic showing how quickly the Pittsburgh offense moves. This is a very skilled offensive unit, and he's evolved so much as a signal caller this year. Very dangerous for the SU secondary.
And last week against Gardner-Webb, he threw 3 touchdowns for 344 yards. It's just Gardner-Webb, but I don't care what team you're playing. That's still pretty impressive in my book, guys. Now, heading over to the running game, Ray Graham, he missed half of last season due to injury, but he seems pretty healthy right now.
Yeah, like you said, Heather, he's coming off a season where he was injured, missed half the season, but he came back this season strong as ever. And like he even says, he doesn't even think about it while he's playing. And even though the coach says, there's a possibility that he's not up to 100%, he's playing like he is because he's getting over 5 yards a carry, and he's a very versatile back. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He has over 100 yards receiving already this season. I think he's just a very, very versatile weapon for the Pitt Panthers offense.
And another big target for Tino Sunseri there. Wide receiver Mike Shanahan. No, we're not switching over to the NFL, Evan. We're still talking about the Pitt Panthers here.
Well, I think this Mike Shanahan has a little bit more athleticism than his Redskins head coach counterpart. Mike Shanahan is a deep threat for Pittsburgh. He's averaging almost 18 yards per catch. One of the top players in the Big East in that number had a 77-yard touchdown catch this season. This guy is dangerous and he's fast. It's allowed Pittsburgh to open up the offense a little bit and push Sunseri's numbers a little bit higher.
The Syracuse defense is really going to have a test there with Mike Shanahan. Heading over to the head man now, head coach Paul Chryst, his first head coaching job ever after Todd Graham left last season.
Well, Todd Graham didn't just leave. He left in a hurry. He sent a text to his players. He didn't even get to meet with them. So there's a little bit of bad blood there. So Paul Chryst came in, possibly into a tough situation. He's the fourth coach in the last 3 seasons for this team. So he's coached at all levels, but his last big job was offensive coordinator for Wisconsin, where he coached people like Monty Ball, like Russell Wilson. So he's really coached players that are high-octane offensive players, so he really brings another dimension to this offense. And I think for Tino Sunseri, for Ray Graham, he's going to be a great coach to get them moving and to get them to possibly be All-Americans.
It seems like he's really put together a full team there, especially against Virginia Tech we saw kind of started their season right there. Now, let's head over to some key matchups in this game. Some things to look for. Starting off, the Pitt rushing attack versus SU linebackers. What do you see in this matchup here?
On paper, you'd think it would advantage the Pitt rushing attack, but I'll say a couple things in defense of the SU linebackers. I think they're going to be all right here. Number one, Pitt's numbers are totally inflated by that Gardner-Webb game. You can't really take them on face. You got to separate it. Remember, this is a team that lost to Youngstown State. And secondly, SU linebacking core, best unit on the defense, maybe the second best unit on the whole team behind the passing offense. How about this defensive unit? They go 5 deep. Diabate, Vaughn, Sproul, Lynch, Davis. Maybe the 5 best players on the defense besides Shamarko Thomas. This is a real good unit. I think if the defensive line does its job, they're going to have a nice time stopping Graham and Shell.
I agree with you that the linebackers are probably the best unit on defense for Syracuse, but I don't think there's any chance that they have any chance to stop Ray Graham and Russell Shell. They're just too versatile of runners. They both average over 75 yards per game, and the SU's linebackers and the rest of their defense let up 175 yards rushing per game already. Now, yes, that's probably inflated from playing someone like USC, but I don't think they just don't have the firepower, and they've played a little soft up until this point, I think. I don't think they have any chance to stop this.
They've also played some very good rushing attacks. You mentioned USC. How about Stony Brook with Masonette and Coker? They've played some good rushing attacks, and they haven't done quite as poorly as I thought they did, so I'm giving them a bit of a shot.
Well, that's definitely going to be a matchup to look out for. But everyone looks at the quarterbacks. Always in matchups, you got to look at the quarterbacks. You have 2 powerhouse guys here with Tino Sunseri and Ryan Nassib. Even though Ryan Nassib, Syracuse is 1-3 right now, he leads the Big East in total offense. So who are you taking in this one, guys?
Now, Tino has had a pretty good season. He's had a decent season up until this point. But Nassib has really played the best of his career. He's got more than half of the yards that he had all last season, and we're only through 4 games so far. He's 8th in the country in passing offense, this SU team is, and I think that there's no chance that Tino can put up with the offense that Syracuse brings, especially in the pass game.
Nassib has more yards, but remember, way less efficient than Sunseri. 67% completion percentage. That's a wonderful number, easily a career high for Sunseri. And Heather, I never thought I'd hear him referenced as a powerhouse, but Tino Sunseri's having a really great year.
He really is one of the big powerhouses in the Big East, if not the entire nation.
Sure, they've diversified their offensive attack. Chryst has done a nice job implementing it, and Sunseri has run with it. I'm impressed. I didn't think he'd have that good of a year, but I like his chances to put up numbers against Nassib.
But like you said, those numbers could be a little bit inflated, especially playing a team like Gardner-Webb last week and a team like Youngstown State. Even though they lost to Youngstown State, they threw a lot.
Well, Syracuse is going to be a little bit bigger of a challenge for Pitt than Gardner-Webb. But those were some of the key matchups. Now let's head over to X Factors. These are something that each team needs to have a good game to win. Who are your X Factors in this game?
Well, you know what you're going to get from Syracuse. 2.5 quarters of decent play, and 1.25 of and maybe they'll win the game. Pitt's game is entirely dependent on if their offensive line shows up. And that's why I'm taking that front 5 guys as my X Factor. Against Youngstown State, they were non-existent. Pitt scored 17 points. They scored 10 the next week against Cincinnati. And suddenly, the offensive line decided to play. Put up 35 against Virginia Tech, and then even more against Gardner-Webb. Again, it was Gardner-Webb, but if Pitt's offensive line can show up well, like they have the last 2 games, could be tough for SU.
Well, see, I do agree with you, and it's going to depend on which Pitt team shows up. Is it the Pitt team that lost to Youngstown State, or is it the Pitt team that beat Virginia Tech? But I think my X factor for this game is going to be the SU run defense, because if the run defense can stop that rushing attack of Pitt, which is their major threat, I think that they'll have a total chance to win, especially with the high-octane offense of Ryan Nassib and Alec Lemon and the rest of that offense bring to the table.
Well, like you said, I guess it really depends on which team shows up for either side. But now we can talk about the matchups, we can talk about everything else, but in the end, the only thing that matters, the final score. So who's going to get the W this week?
Well, I almost flipped a coin to pick this game.
You did. I remember that.
Yes, it's a toss-up, but I think a lot of people are forgetting how high we were on Syracuse before the Minnesota game. They were 1-2, but they had played really well. They lost Northwestern because of stupid mistakes. They outplayed them, and they played really well against USC. I have Syracuse winning this game. 2 good offenses. Naturally, it'll be a defensive contest. I think SU grinds it out 21-17.
I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think Pitt will pull this out because I don't think SU's run defense can, as I've said time and time again during this episode, I don't think they'll be able to match up against Ray Graham and Russell Shell. I think they're 2 of the best running backs in the Big East, and I don't think SU's defense is really strong enough to match up. So I'm going to go with Pitt 28, SU 21.
Well, I guess we're going to have to wait until Friday. Thank you so much for joining this edition of Cuse Countdown, but our coverage never stops. Check us out online at sportsblog.citrustv.net for all your SU sports. And if you can't watch the game, no problem, we've got you covered. Just follow us on Twitter at CitrusTV Sports for all your live updates straight from the Carrier Dome. For Evan Weston and Ron Schiltz, I'm Heather Prusak. Enjoy the game, Syracuse.